I'm pretty sure most people have heard of the Appalachian Mountains. That place is a hotspot for unsettling encounters. Yes, I know, how cliché, but yes, I found this location there while visiting the place. For some sightings I wanted to capture and upload to YouTube. The place is incredibly obscure, miles off any trail, and was only accessible through an old, half-collapsed railway tunnel, and its only history was how this site was built as a black site research lab during the Cold War to study anomalous wildlife using regional folklore as camouflage. I went with a buddy, no way I was going alone, but even with the two of us, finding that tunnel was a nightmare. The internet and the locals were no help. Heck, the maps of the mountains had the location blank. The only known way inside was through that tunnel I mentioned earlier. If it could be reachable in any other way, I wasn't aware of it. But to those curious, I am not going to be specific for a few reasons you will see in a minute. As we both traveled to the site, it appeared to be a shady looking doorless warehouse type place on the outside with the spray painted words "Cryptid Zoo, do not enter." We both broke one of the biggest rules in horror: never enter a place marked "do not enter." But the worst part is how we didn't even hesitate. On the inside, it looked like a mix between a rusting carnival, broken down wildlife center, and a war bunker. The inside was a massive liminal space and looked like a typical abandoned place. On the ground I saw a pamphlet that seemed to have been made by a child who met the cryptids, written in crayon on the top. It looked like something a kid might draw for a field trip at the zoo, except it appeared crossed out and torn, and one page had deep claw marks through it. Someone tried to destroy it, unless it was a part of the exhibit. My friend called me over at the entrance and told me to check the visitor logs. They showed that nobody had signed in since 1993. As we discovered this, we heard some metal clangs deep within the zoo and went forward into the hallway, and there was a strange smell. It smelled coppery and earthy. I don't know how to describe it, but it was strange. We saw a flickering light, and one of the cameras we thought was turned off was still somehow tracking us. Even though I was positive that nobody was here with us as we came in, aside from the drawing on the ground. Remember what I said about the exhibits? They were questionable and quickly got disturbing as we went deeper. We were on level 1 of the exhibit, the place that holds the more tame-looking cryptids, or at least animals that appeared identical to them, with a poster with text and a photo of the cryptid it was supposed to resemble. Starting off, we saw Bigfoot, which was a large gorilla with patched fur, but we saw some surgical scars and enhanced-looking limbs. It just stared at me. It didn't behave like a gorilla. It didn't blink once. Then I looked into the next cryptid, the Loch Ness Monster. It was just an European eel, a giant one, inside an opaque tank. As we got close, it moved, and it had one milky eye. And it just stared. Then we saw the Kraken, which of course was actually squid, but with glowing tags embedded on its flesh. It was sluggish and twitching, with arms that appeared sewn on. What made me jump was some red eyes staring at us, appearing from the dark aviary. It was what was supposed to be the Mothman, but as I pulled out the flashlight, it was just a sandhill crane. I heard some strange clicking noises from its throat. Then, the final cryptid of the first level was the chupacabra. It was a very thin and weak wild dog with bat-like ears. It didn't bark, it just sobbed and the cage appeared. Something was wrong with these animals, and I couldn't help but feel horrible for them. They appeared to be experimented on to look like the cryptids. But I pressed onto the second level, and something was starting to definitely feel wrong. Starting off with the bunnyp. It appeared to be some bloated amphibious creature of some kind. I didn't know what it was because it was just in a tank full of black water. I didn't bother checking thoroughly, but it made no sound. Then I saw the thunderbird. It was a massive bird that had stitched features and some metal on its wings. It just stared at me again. Many of the creatures here were staring at me. Some were angry, thinking I was the guy who made them this way, and as I backed away, I was told by my friend to be careful as an elk, forced to pose like a human, swatted at me and had its head replaced with a deer's skull with antlers poking out. I knew what this creature was supposed to represent. It was a Wendigo, but due to its anger, it scratched the poster on the wall that said so. The appearance of it disturbed me a lot, because it straight up surgically had its head cut off and replaced with the skull, with its brain and important nerves to the head left intact. Then I noticed something. It wasn't just swatting at me and started trying to break the cage it was inside of. And then, as it started to open up and the creature tried to climb out, we ran away towards the third part of the exhibit, hoping at the very end we would find the exit, and were met with a disturbing scene. We saw the only people in the building, or at least what's left of them. I saw what was supposed to be a skinwalker. An actor was dressed as one, though, and we could tell he was a male. He was incredibly pale and twitchy, wearing ripped animal clothing, and we were locked behind inside padded enclosures. We didn't dare approach him. His eyes never blinked, and he kept whispering things we didn't understand. My friend muttered, "Don't look at him," and we just kept moving. Then we heard him scream, and we covered our ears, but in the corner we were met with another actor, a thin and weak-looking person who was clearly meant to resemble the infamous pale crawlers. He was also a male and appeared naked, but the private areas were clearly surgically pulled off and replaced with some of the skin. The mouth was stuck in a permanent silent scream. I didn't know why, but he was just there inside of the cage, banging his head on the wall as we watched. But we just kept going because there was growling behind us. The Wendigo creature was behind us as we ran towards the back room, which appeared as this liminal space and appeared somewhat cleaner compared to the rest of the building. There were labels on the walls reading, "Do not proceed past this point, authorized personnel only." This time we didn't listen, not because we were idiots, but because there was an angry creature behind us, so we kind of had no choice. We found a door, then closed it behind us in front of the creature, and we saw something. It wasn't an animal dressed up or an actor. It was a room with a flickering light bulb, and with only a frosted glass inside. We never had a good look at it, and we mumbled the word "no" over and over. It was a tall humanoid with knees bent forward. Arms were hanging low, almost like a marionette with leathery skin. It was just there, twitching very slowly. Its face was stretched with extra skin, so there were no eyes or anything. Then it woke up and started banging on the glass, some of it shattering. And then my friend tried to kick the wall before anything attacked us. I noticed something. The wall was crumbling a bit like paper as we tore through, and we were just back in the mountains, where we were previously. And as we turned behind us, we were just outside of the tunnel where we came to that zoo. It was just leading to a warehouse, but behind it still torn open as the creature from the frosted glass broke out and began to chase us out of the tunnel. And then we didn't see it again. But the last time we saw it was when it was running up a hill nearby, staring at us. I don't think the place we entered was even real, but apparently the creature we saw before we left showed up. There are more questions lingering than answers, and the place appeared to have been torn down a long time ago. We didn't speak, we just kept walking, back through the trees and through the fog, and hoped that we weren't being followed. But as I checked my bag to grab one of my water bottles from the walk, I saw something. There was a torn zoo pamphlet inside. That place was real. At least a part of it was.